Great. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our event series, Workforce Connections, Upskilling Your Workforce. Thank you so much for being here with us today. My name is Jessie Shook. I'm the Director of Education and Workforce Connectivity at GLI, and honored to have our wonderful presenters with us here today and excited to share some valuable information. GLI is the Regional Chamber of Commerce here in Greater Louisville, and we're dedicated to growing our economy. In order for our business community to thrive, we know that we need diverse, versatile, and equitable labor pools. Today's Workforce Connection is on the topic of upskilling. We're going to explore why it's important to invest in your workforce as we begin economic recovery from COVID-19. I'm excited to kick us off today, and I really want to thank all of our sponsors for this event, as it's so important to lift up the level of knowledge in our community. I'd like to thank our CEO Council sponsors, Brown-Forman, Humana, Kindred Healthcare, LG&E, Norton Healthcare, and PNC. And I'd also like to thank our series supporting sponsor, Focal Point Business and Training Excellence of Kentucky, and special thanks to our series presenting sponsor, HR Affiliates. The work we do as a chamber is dependent on the participation of our business community. HR Affiliates is not only a strong advocate for GLI in the community, they practice what they preach by staying highly involved in the work we do. From leading our ambassador program to engaging with this series as a presenting sponsor, if you want to talk about why the Chamber is a great resource, make sure to connect with HR Affiliates. Next, I want to introduce our colleague, Jennifer Wheatley of HR Affiliates, to tell us a little bit more about what they're doing in our community. Jennifer?
Thank you, Jessie. We really appreciate the opportunity to be a sponsor for this event, as well as our partnership with GLI, so thank you. We also want to thank everyone for joining us today for this great conversation about a topic that I really think could not be more timely. And, you know, with everything that's happened over the past several months, our clients, like most employers, have really been forced to rethink how they're doing business. What a business was doing a few months ago could be and probably is very different now. You know, take for example a client that we have that formerly had a real strong retail brick and mortar presence. And this client was forced to quickly move to a strong, to be really an online retailer, really in order to keep their doors open. Had they not been able to shift, they wouldn't be in business. So, you know, the good news is that technology enabled them to shift. You know, the bad news is that it required a change in the skills needed from their employees to manage in this new way of doing business. Many of their employees really didn't even know how to use their online ordering system and were afraid to learn. They had to be trained. You know, they certainly, you know, the employer couldn't certainly go out and hire all new workforce. And as an employer, you certainly cannot or should not, you know, try to replace your employee with your employees or new employees who have the skills needed. So, you know, employers really need to invest in their current workforce and really equip them with the skills needed to be in the future. I can't think of a better time for an employer to, you know, analyze their current workforce, really take an inventory of the skills that are currently available, and then determine the skills that the workforce will need in order to have their business to sustain, to thrive, and to grow. We all know the challenges of finding great talent to come to your organization. We can't just post a job opening and magically find the talent that you're looking for. So before thinking about bringing in new talent, I think it's critical for, as an employer, to really look at your current workforce and determine how you can invest in them. You know, you already made a huge investment, and so now you should do what you can to protect that investment. So the nature of the jobs, if you guys have seen, you know, the nature of jobs will continue to shift, and employee expectations will continue to change. Think about this shift that we've seen to remote work that has occurred over the last several months. Employers who would have never thought that a job could be done remotely have realized it can be done. You won't believe the conversations we've had with clients about that very topic. In addition, employees' attitudes about remote work and their need for work-life balance has become much clearer. So teaching employees new skills, you know, it affords new opportunities for both the employee and the employer. You know, there's a lot of advantages, including increased productivity, business growth, certainly happier employees and bottom line improvements. So I'm really excited about today's presentation, and I encourage everyone to think about how you will upskill your workforce and be ready for what tomorrow will bring. So with that, Jesse, I'll turn it back over to you, and thanks everyone, and thanks for being here today.
Great. Thank you so much, Jennifer. We're very appreciative of your sponsorship on this event for this important topic and your leadership within the workforce development space. To paint a quick picture for you guys, currently the numbers are showing that we have more than 100,000 people out of work within our MSA. And so many of them are eager to learn new skills. Just in the hospitality industry alone, we've lost almost 40,000 jobs. And when you think about the median wage in the hospitality industry, it comes in pretty low at $24,000 annually. We know that we have to step up to the table and be strategic in creating opportunities for people to develop new skills and get back into the workforce as productive members of our economy. We have a unique opportunity in front of us to develop our people to meet the specific needs of industry. And by tapping into non-traditional candidates, along with offering your current workforce opportunities to learn new skills, we can build back even stronger and support a more resilient workforce. In today's business climate, many companies have had to downsize. I know even from my own personal experience within GLI, I've stepped into some graphic design functions that I never thought in a million years they would let me do. But I invested in some skill development. I reached out to my colleagues for assistance, and I'm now able to make some graphic design pieces at about the level of a high school senior, but for certain purposes that fits the bill, right? And so we need to be nimble. Companies need to be nimble. Leaderships need to be nimble. Our workers are having to take on new responsibilities. Supply chains have been disrupted and business models have adapted. We've got companies that are creating entirely new products, or potentially their supplier in China is no longer accessible and they need to start manufacturing a part themselves. So for all of these reasons, now more than ever is a just incredibly important time to invest in our workforce and come together to really strategize how as a community can we build back stronger. And to kick us off today, I'm so excited to introduce my friend and colleague, Vahid Makin. He's a campus recruiter and retention specialist for 7 County Services, and he's going to share with us information on the importance of benefits and the need to upskill and tap into new talent pools. So Vahid, at this point, the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you, Jesse. It's a pleasure to be invited. And what a wonderful, diverse screen that I have in front of me right now. We look like a beautiful garden of colors, of different colors and shapes and sizes. And this brings to mind one of the important things that to keep in mind as we step into the space or continue to step into the space of upskilling, retooling, reskilling our workforce, is how we can also integrate diversity and inclusion into that effort as well. So important. I would like to ask for the ability to share my screen. Okay, I have that now. Here we go. Okay. Can everyone see this okay? I guess that's a yes. So I wanted to quickly introduce the organization I've worked for 4 years. 7 County Services is the community mental health care for the region. We provide mental health and drug and alcohol addiction services. We are also over Bellwood and Brookline, which is the therapeutic foster care services organization for the region. 7 County Services has 26 locations in the 7 counties, and these counties include Bullitt, Henry, Jefferson, Oldham, Spencer, Shelby, and Trimble counties. We have 85 and plus unique programs designed for behavioral health issues, developmental disabilities, and as I mentioned, drug and alcohol addiction services. in our Bellwood and Brooklawn, as well as our main organization of 7 counties, we have 500 volunteers providing 10,000 hours of service in 2019. And we also serve 34,000 annually clients in our community that they come to us for services. Within the organization, we have a workforce of 1,400 employees, and we are the largest non-hospital, not-for-profit agency in Metro Louisville. In my role as campus recruiter, I help place bachelor level students in internship opportunities within our organization. So I work with focus educational institutions around the state in order to provide practicum and internship placement opportunities for specifically behavioral health care. You might want talking about social workers and those in the psychology and sociology field who want that experience before they enter the workforce to gain experience in the culture of what it's like to be in the shoes of a social worker or be in the shoes of a therapist, what it looks like to be in the shoes of a direct support specialist or a peer support specialist. And I help to create that opportunity for them. And as we know, like any other healthcare space, behavioral healthcare, mental health care, addiction services is going to be a need, a heavy need as we go into the future. I'm truly honored today to share some of these research findings that I've found. Starting off with a SHRM article released in just this May of this year, and the results that the Society for Human Resource Management shared comes from this annual global CEO survey conducted by PricewaterhouseCoopers in 2019, which shows the percentages of CEOs who say they are extremely or somewhat concerned about the availability of people with key skills as a threat to their business. And this concern has grown in recent years. And as you can see from these trend lines from 2012 to 2015, there was a significant 20% jump in the number of concerned CEOs. In 2016, that percentage went down by just 1% leading into the following year. However, in 2017, that number climbed back up 5 percentage points from the year before, and since then has continued to increase. Now, what are these key skills that PricewaterhouseCoopers survey results showed? Now, according to Indeed.com's career guide, moving forward through this pandemic and our social injustices that are occurring and crises in the community, Indeed published also in May of this year these hard skills as well as key soft skills that companies and organizations should consider when making decisions around upskilling, reskilling, or retooling, including human resources and technology. And even if you're running a solid business in a solid sector like behavioral health, the concern lies in if the workforce and existing technology are able to continue to service or provide the demand or need. Now, these hard skills that they've reported include bilingual or multilingual. Does your workforce have database management capability, Adobe software suite, a network security ability, SEO, SEM marketing, statistical analysis, data mining? Do they have the ability or the skills to do that? Mobile development, as we continue to train our workforce to work remotely. User interface design, excuse me. Marketing campaign management, storage systems and management, as well as new skills in programming languages such as Perl, Python, Java, and Ruby. Now, those are some of the new key hard skills that Indeed is suggesting that we upskill many of our workforce, depending on your industry and field, in order to remain relevant and successful through the years to come. Now, in addition to those, and while we are helping to upskill them to those new skills, there are also soft skills that are integral to this process. And those include integrity, dependability, effective organizational communication, talent, open-mindedness, their teamwork, creativity, problem solving, critical thinking, adaptability, their sense of organization and teamwork, their willingness to learn new skills, abilities, and knowledge. And of course, very important, are they developing a sense of empathy and compassion? Now, when we talk of the hard skills, those are technical skills or training that you have gained through any life experience, including your career or education. Those include what we've already mentioned. Now, those soft skills, on the other hand, are personal habits and traits that shape how you work on your own and with others. Now, upskilling our employees and offering valuable internal training opportunities offer us the chance as a company or organization to build our reputation as an employer of choice. As someone who conducts exit interviews for my organization, 7 County Services, I have the opportunity to get a sneak peek and gain an understanding of the reasons staff leave their jobs. Now, for many employees, particularly Generation X and millennial employees in our organization, the lack of career progress is among their top reasons for leaving their job. This is a key piece of information and especially helpful when talent is hard to find. Our executive leadership team takes the exit interview surveys seriously, and so for every departing employee that participates in an exit interview that I conduct, I share those with our CEO, as well as our Chief Operating Officer, my VP for HR and Development, as well as, so that they can identify areas that need to be in the organization, that need to be improved in the areas of culture and organizational development, as well as the processes that the organization currently does that need to be changed up so that we can continue to service not just the needs of our clients, but meet the needs of the employees where they are. So while upskilling our workforce can reduce employee turnover, it can also impact positively the work being done around inclusion and, as I mentioned, diversity. And not only is it better business to upskill or reskill people who already work for you and provide them a career path forward, but it is also great to see more racial and gender diversity and other underrepresented groups move from, say, non-technical roles into software programming roles. Upskilling also provides a path forward for employees to diversify not only the front lines, but also management. Now, if as an organization, you cannot provide internal training opportunities for your staff, you can partner with educational institutions and companies in order to address this need for your workforce. GLI Workforce Development can help with this, and you have these community partners listed here and provided by GLI, and they are ready to support you and your company as you work on upskilling, reskilling, or up-tooling your workforce or technology. I wanted to leave you with these 3 questions to think about as we break out into our groups. The first question is, what fresh or new skills or knowledge and abilities would be important for my employees to learn? Number 2, how would these new skills, knowledge, and abilities benefit my workforce and business? For example, shifting business approaches. And third, how would new upskilling position my workforce to continue to be an employer of choice in the community? So with that, I wanted to end my opening. I hope this helped to set the stage for our group discussions in our smaller breakout groups. Jesse, thank you.
Thank you so much, Vahid. That is great information to, as you said, set the stage for the importance of this topic. We've got just about 3 minutes, and I know that I have a couple questions for you, but I wanted to open it up to the audience to see if any of you have a couple questions, just sort of from that holistic perspective that Vahid just presented to us, that you'd like to ask before we move into our breakout groups. Feel free to type it in the chat box or just chime in. You can turn your video and sound on if you've got a question you'd like to ask. And so we do the awkward pause, right, just to be sure. And I'm going to go ahead and ask one of my burning questions. And then if anyone else has anything, please feel free to type it into the chat box. My question, Vahid, is what happens if your employees are reluctant to upskill? What happens if my manager comes to me and says, you know what, Jess, we really need someone to assist us with some creative work. Are you willing? And I just outright say, no, you know, I'm really not interested in that. How do you approach that from a leadership perspective to help your employees see the need to develop these new skills?
Thanks for that great question, Jesse. I think it's important to have the conversation with your senior leadership. I think that the CEO, as well as his or her executive leadership team, set the tone for the rest of the organization, the direction that the organization is moving forward through the crises. And I think that they set not just the tone, but the direction as well, the strategy, and they've worked through their leadership team down to the front lines in order to make it happen. So I think that through that conversation about how then can we consult our frontline managers to have these conversations with people on their teams, because in the end, the weight and the bulk of these conversations in terms of educating the workforce and having discussions on why is it important now more than ever to shift or to learn fresh skills, abilities, and knowledge. That the bulk of that conversation will lie on the shoulders of the frontline managers. And I think that when we have these discussions with our senior leaders, they can impact those discussions that managers will have with people in the field. And that education, that process of education and consultation, in my opinion, will help to create understanding. Now, not everyone will get on board, but those who want to and understand will.
That's great. Thank you so much for that great response. We've had two very difficult questions. Well, Terrence, I'm not sure that everyone kind of has the same definition of a non-traditional candidate. And maybe that's part of what we need to do as a collective, is really look at how are we defining that and how are we maybe combating sort of the stigma that business owners might have for a non-traditional candidate. So I don't know, Vahid, if you have any insight on what do you sort of define as a non-traditional candidate, and why is it important for employers to consider candidates that are maybe outside of the box of what they have historically hired?
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess I wanted to ask Terrence Spence what an example of a non-traditional candidate is that he's thinking about, and we can go from there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Earlier in your opening, you talked about how businesses were adapting to the environment as it relates to the coronavirus and how that's impacting their ability or folks losing positions or just making some changes. And you indicated, one of the things will be non-traditional candidates that businesses are reviewing. Now, I know one area of non-traditional candidates could include individuals, trying to remember the actual term, the individuals released from prison. I know that's kind of a population of non-traditional candidates for a lot of organizations, but I didn't know if you had kind of a listing or some examples of what businesses have been doing as it relates to reviewing or considering or trying to attract non-traditional candidates.
Others might have insight on this. Others on the call might have better insight on this. Unfortunately, Terrence, I don't have that information, and I can't offer anything that I don't have. But I do know that in the space that I work in, which is in campus recruiting and building the pipelines from student, which is our non-traditional candidate in the work that I do. Bachelor of Science in social work student. It's important for them to gain two things. One is immerse them in the culture of the organization, and this can work in your organizations as well. Immerse those students in your culture by giving them some 6-8 month experience, not working, but yeah, side by side with one of your staff that will give them a true and genuine understanding of what the culture is like in your organization. And then second is the work itself. Have them get down and dirty and just to do the work itself. Now they're going to go back to school. They're going to decide to complete their bachelor's degree. They might decide to take their master's degree. We invite them back to do their internship or practicum at the master level back in our organization, so that it's easier for us to hire them on later after they complete their master's program. So the non-traditional candidate in the space that I work in is the student, is the university student, whether they're a bachelor student or a grad student. And we hire them because they already have that experience with our culture and the work that we do.
That's a great response. And, this is a difficult question, and it's industry specific, right? And Terrence, you bring up a great point. We do need to look at overlooked populations. Who has not been able to fully participate in our workforce? What sort of systemic systems, what systems do we have in place that are preventing people from gaining skills and upward mobility? Populations that have historically maybe not had access to social capital and advancement opportunities. And just to segue into our next section, I think Greg's question, while extremely difficult to answer, I think today is the starting point. So Greg asked, how do we go about upskilling the 100,000 people out of work, especially the 40,000 in hospitality? I think today is the starting point, right? Everyone who is here willingly. We're here because we care about this topic. Today and this time is meant for you to educate yourself on the opportunities that we have in this community through connections with organizations who are providing upskilling pathways. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and start moving into the breakout sessions where you're going to be hearing from a number of different organizations who are providing those exact resources, opportunities, curriculum, pathways, overlooked talent pipelines. And some of what I would consider to be the non-traditional candidate is someone who might not have a 4-year degree in the particular industry, but has gone through an alternative training or certification program. So we'll hear about a lot of those different options and opportunities. So at this point, Sydney, I'll go ahead and cue you to start coordinating the breakouts. You all will be in a sort of collective group the whole time. The only ones that will be moving are our presenters. So you all will be grouped together. Presenters will be moving. You'll get a 90-second warning. And so presenters, that's your cue to kind of wrap things up, leave everyone with your contact information, and then we'll be moving on to the next breakout. And we'll come back together quickly as a full group before the end of our time together today. So Sydney, go ahead and take it away. Thank you all so much for being here. I know I heard a lot of good information. Even though I'm familiar with many of these programs, I still learned so much This is essential. We've got to keep up our level of knowledge. As Greg mentioned, we've got a big problem on our hands. We've got to come together to solve that problem. If you're interested in hiring people who have been displaced by COVID-19, simply send me an email. I'll put my email in the chat box. It's jshook@greaterlouisville.com. And we can get you connected with folks who are coming through our Displaced Worker Job Seeker Connection program. We filter them based on skill sets, industry of interest, willingness to learn new skills, and we will connect them directly with your HR and recruiting teams. And with that, I'll close us out. And I really want to just say thanks again to all of our sponsors, to our CEO Council sponsors, Brown-Forman, Humana, Kindred, LG&E, Norton, and PNC. And then again to Focal Point Business and Training Excellence of Kentucky, and especially to our presenting sponsor, HR Affiliates. We value your partnership on these events so much and know that you are committed to raising the level of awareness, the importance of these topics within our community. So thank you again for all of your work, your dedication, and your commitment to this topic. And please don't hesitate to reach out to us if there's anything that we can do. You all have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, Jesse. You too.